Well, it's one small launch for SpaceX, but one giant leap for university students in Hamilton. Hours ago, a team at McMaster University got to see a satellite they designed sent into orbit. The satellite is called Nudo. It will provide critical measurements around radiation exposure. Joining me now from Florida is the operations team lead, Taryn Ginter. Good morning, Taryn.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm excellent. I'm very excited to talk about this because I know this has been a long time coming for you and for your team, 8 years. It's involved more than 150 students. How did everything go yesterday? What was it like to watch the satellite finally launch into space?
Yesterday was incredible. I mean, the tour, we actually got to see the launch pad and see the rocket where our satellite was going to be headed to the International Space Station. So that was amazing. And then the launch could not have gone more smoothly. We were all down at the beach ready to see it. And luckily the weather was perfect. So right around 8:30 last night, we got to see the Falcon 9 blast off with our satellite on board.
It's so cool. And it's cool for me, let alone I'm sure for you and the team. So tell us about the role of the Nudo satellite. It's going to measure radiation levels. What's so important about radiation as we start to measure some of this for future space missions?
Yeah, so space radiation poses a huge risk to astronauts' health. And as we're moving forward to further deep space missions, like maybe going to Mars, we need to understand that risk because it's a unique radiation environment. And so there are other risks associated with it. But before we can kind of prepare for that, we actually need to understand what the dose is and how that's going to affect the astronauts. So our satellite will play the role of detecting both charged and neutral particles and looking at that radiation dose in low Earth orbit so that we can get a better sense of the radiation dose astronauts would also be exposed to.
Right, and so which is fascinating too, because we're protected here on Earth, right, from that radiation, and it's different. How is your radiation measuring instrument different, or does it or otherwise, and how it's going to measure this in space?
So our radiation measurement instrument actually can detect both charged and neutral particles and discriminate between the dose. So basically what that means is that we have a more detailed sense of the radiation dose that the astronauts are going to get. And we're also measuring it using a little tool called the CNP-TEPC, which is essentially equivalent to human soft tissue. It's filled with a mixture of gases that actually give us a really detailed look at how that radiation is going to impact humans.
This is really, really fascinating. Okay, Tara, I know you mentioned that it's going to the ISS first. So you're going to start at the International Space Station. What happens from there? How long does it spend there, I guess? And then what happens as astronauts will get set to launch it into orbit?
It'll sit on the ISS for probably 1 to 2 months. And then once the astronauts are ready, once our time is up, it'll be time for deployment. So our satellite is in a NanoRacks deployer. It will be ejected from the International Space Station. And from there, that's where the real mission starts, because that's when we start getting our data back. We actually have a ground station at McMaster where the data will be transmitted, and from there we can start looking at the findings from our satellite.
Which is so cool. And you have a little bit of a command center set up at McMaster, I've heard, and that you have a little area all set up on campus?
Yes, we do. We have a little ground station on campus. We also have on the roof of one of the buildings on campus, we actually have like our antennas and everything ready to get the information back down from space.
And so once you get that information back, you're going to start analyzing it. What are you going to be able to do? Are we talking about, the Canadian Space Agency, NASA, and others be able to use this, or how are you going to be able to move this forward?
Yeah, that's the goal. So we're hoping that this will provide really valuable information into the radiation dose that can be used by major space agencies to begin looking at better ways of implementing safety procedures that can minimize the risk for the astronauts. And we're also hoping that one day, little radiation detectors like ours will become a bit more of a standard. Hopefully, Nudos is the first of many so that we can move forward in making space travel safer.
Again, it is so cool, and we know, again, lots of space travel planned for astronauts and otherwise. Taryn Ginter, appreciate your time this morning. Well done to you and the team. Thanks so much, and we'll stay in touch, okay?
Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this, be sure to subscribe here, or you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.